The fundamental principles of justice and the right to a fair trial have been enshrined in the English law as far back as Magna Carta. And despite all the many different threats to the right to a fair trial since the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, the biggest threat facing our country's legal system is right here, right now, today. The constant chipping away and the catastrophic underfunding of the criminal legal aid has led to a broken justice system, perilously close to collapse. 2 years ago, the Public Accounts Committee stated that the criminal justice system was at breaking point. The government has failed to heed those warnings, and we now have a situation whereby it's only through the extraordinary goodwill and willingness to go the extra mile by prosecutors and defence barristers that justice can now be done. On Sunday, I had an email from one of my constituents who's a pupil barrister specialising in criminal law in her second 6 months of training. She told me that she has already been prosecuting cases and has had experience of being handed papers to prosecute a case at court on the day itself, and has seen cases adjourned due to disclosure failures, and that this is not uncommon. She went on to say, and I quote, "I'm afraid that I won't be able to earn enough to support myself, let alone enough to buy a home, start a family, retire with a decent pension. I hope I'll be able to justify staying in this profession, which is so hard, which I already love so much, and which I've invested so much work and money in joining. I don't need riches, but I need to be able to live, and my future clients will need to be able to dedicate the time their cases require and deserve. I need to know I'll be paid for my work, or I just won't be able to do it. And where will we be if 1,000 people in my position come to that conclusion and there is no one to replace us?" And that is the point. Where will we be if we cease being able to attract people to practice criminal law? How many miscarriages of justice can we expect for the defendant and the victim as disclosures take place late, as documents do not get properly read, and as defendants cease to get properly represented? With more cuts planned in the Ministry of Justice by the government, it's clear that this is a targeted assault on the criminal justice system, and that the government have a flagrant disregard for the future of the criminal justice in this country. With regards to the Advocates' Graduated Fee Scheme, the AGFS scheme, this is the means by which the government hoped to reap some of those cuts. Since 2010, the AGFS spent has fallen by 40%, and considering that the new scheme proposed under the statutory instrument we are discussing today is meant to be cost-neutral, this is surely just a case of rearranging the deck chairs. The fact that the views of the Criminal Bar Association have not been listened to also leads them to conclude that the scheme is a sham and purely then to deliver the cuts for the government. There are so many absurdities to the current AGFS system that one would think it had been devised in an Alice in Wonderland environment. As my honourable friend for Leeds East said, why is it the case that 250 pages of evidence is paid the same as one with 5,000 pages? Why is it that a rape case with one defendant and one complainant is paid the same as a case with multiple victims and multiple complainants? Why is there no recognition of the additional work required in working with vulnerable witnesses, children or people with mental health conditions? Is a standard appearance fee of £90 really acceptable when the cost of catching the train to court is significantly more? Is a fee of £125 for a sentencing acceptable? Why have fees not gone up since 2007? The Minister and others have claimed that this scheme is an improvement on the previous one, but an improvement on a terrible failing scheme, making it into a bad one, is no improvement for criminal barristers at all. The impact of these cuts to criminal legal aid will be felt for many years to come, as barristers and solicitors leave criminal justice in their droves. Why would anyone stay in a profession that is incredibly stressful and where the pay is barely enough to survive on? The young legal aid lawyers, those with up to 10 years' experience, carried out research that showed that 30% of respondents earned less than £20,000 and 83% less than £35,000. Throw into the mix tuition fees for undergraduates and the bar professional training course, which could leave them with debts of up to £50,000 or more, and you have a very unappealing set of factors which will repel applicants, not attract them. There is a real tipping point approaching, which, if not addressed, could have disastrous effects of the number of practitioners working in criminal law, which will also have an effect on the quality of legal advice people receive. We can forget any diversity or social mobility targets because unless criminal legal aid is properly funded, we'll only see those who are able to afford to support themselves entering the profession. This threatens the very right to a fair trial, which takes me back to where I started. I'll end now by saying that unless criminal legal aid is properly funded, starting with tearing up of the AGFS and starting again, then this will sound the death knell for those practising criminal law.
That's right.
And I say to the Minister, you can't do justice on the cheap.
Yeah.
Bob Deal.